Hey, I'm Gary from Hoops and Cards, and you're listening to the NoOffSeason.com Sports Card Content Network. Be sure to subscribe to all of our podcasts, including Sports Card Strategy, Football Card Quest, and my show, Hoops and Cards. We're helping you make money to fund your PC and enjoy the hobby because there is no off-season.
What's going on, everybody? Paul Hickey here with NoOffSeason.com. You are consuming the Sports Card Strategy Show, brought to you by Graybo's Sports Cards. Graybo's Sports Cards is a local hobby shop owned by Gray Burnett, Ryan Fitz, and Duke Denny One-Time Dodson, and is located in the Arts District in Richmond, Virginia. Graybo's sports the best selection of raw and graded singles in the Mid-Atlantic and a wide variety of wax. Graybo's breaks on Whatnot and or Drip 5 nights a week. Listeners of Sports Card Strategy can receive a 10% discount from Graybo's on Drip, Whatnot, or their website at graybos.co by entering the code STRATEGY2023. You can follow all of Graybo's news and updates on Instagram at Graybos_cards. Don't forget to go premium at nooffseason.com. Get your free 30-day trial today to help you build your sports card investment portfolio. We have just launched Sports Card School at nooffseason.com. Check it out at sportscardschool.com. All of the data we use on the Sports Card Strategy Show is from Market Movers. Get a free 14-day trial followed by 20% off for life by using the promo code NOOFFSEASON at marketmoversapp.com today. All right, you're about to enter a Wednesday deep dive with Kendall the Lefty McKee and Connor Barnett, head of content at nooffseason.com. Lefty and Connor, take it away.
What's going on, everybody? Connor Barnett here, head of content at nooffseason.com, back for another Wednesday deep dive with Lefty McKee. Kendall, how are we doing this morning, sir?
We're diving in, baby. Wednesday is some of my favorite podcasts we put out here because we can go as deep as we need to go. Time is relatively unlimited, Connor. We can just get in here. The things that we have to talk about today are things that are going to take some developed thinking in terms of process. And so we're going to talk about how there are certain names that you want, and you got to be granular with which cards you're bringing in. So let's, man, I'm super excited to dive in today. Got some stuff rolling in the hopper. I have, am waiting for you to just pepper me with some cards. So let's
go. Yeah. Before we do hop into things real quick, I wanted to give a quick W of the week. I know that's usually reserved for the Monday show, but my W of the week was the Monday show. I thought that that was one of the strongest shows that we've put out since I've been a part of the team. Lefty brought it super strong. The guys brought it super strong. Gary, you featured and was super strong as always. I thought Monday show, which was a 2-hour show, was fantastic with tons of value. So if you haven't checked out Monday's show, definitely be sure to head over to your favorite streaming platform or nooffseason.com to check out Sports Card Strategy Show's Monday episode. And before we get into our segments, I'm going to give some live chat love this morning. Looks like we got a bunch of people jumping early and ready to dive with us. So good morning, Shane Graham. Good morning, Chad Gill. Good morning, Barry Siff. Good morning, Justin Stewart, Mark D, Brian Steeler 714. Pumped, guys. We're glad to have you here this morning. We got some good stuff, like Lefty said, tuned up for today. So we're going to roll through portfolio building, path to profits, invest/fade, our 1K budget builder, winner of the week, and we're going to wrap things up with audience Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the show, be sure to drop them in the comments, and we will do our best to get to them at the end of the show.
Shout out Justin for a new profile picture here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Up to date, baby. We love it. Let's kick things off with some portfolio building here, Lefty, shall we?
Yes.
Let's talk about where you're at in your portfolio and kind of some of the changes that are happening right now. Give the audience a little bit of insight as to what you're doing to move in certain directions and for what reasons.
Yeah, so we've talked about how our portfolio building is where we take a percentage of our portfolio and allocate it towards some riskier assets and some non-riskier assets. So for us, we like to have a good percentage in the Flyers, a good percentage in the Heroes, and then Goats having an accurate percentage as well, based on some of the long-term holds, some of the short-term holds. On our Monday show, we typically talk about 6 to 12 months being the average investment cycle. And sometimes when you're developing a portfolio, some of the Flyers and Goats are a little bit outside of that range. And so we're looking at a longer-term portfolio, a healthy look on your entire collection when we look at this series of what we're doing here at the Sports Card Strategy Show Deep Dive. So we talked about my portfolio, and I just was like one of our first episodes here on the Deep Dive. I just broke it down to exactly what I have. I talked about what I have currently and what I would like to have in the future. And so as we went into December buying season, I looked at my portfolio and I saw that the edges of my portfolio were not as crisp as I wanted them to be. So when I looked at some of the cards that I had been holding for a while, there were cards that I moved into in like 2021-ish that I was happy to get into because of the price value of those cards in 2021. Well, something that we have talked about over the last couple of weeks is that 2020 and 2021 was a massive bubble that popped around the edge of 2021, 2022. And some of those cards that I was really happy to get into at that time period based on their dollar value, the dollar value had actually came down. And so when I looked at that, the cards that I got into at that point, not only was I underwater on a lot of these cards in terms of evaluation, like the money that I have in the card, but then I also realized that those cards specifically are not the cards that I want from those players. So we always talk about how, or lately we have been talking about how you can have the right player and you can have the right team and you can have the wrong card. And so in our shows recently, like we've had some questions in the Overflow show about, okay, how do you determine right card and wrong card and stuff like that? And so I wanted to give a real life example of some wrong cards that I was in that I moved out of to get some more assets in this period where I needed some cash flow. So the card that I'm going to look at here, I'm going to bring up a chart real quick. For those of you watching, we're using Market Movers. We use Market Movers for everything that we do. For those of you not watching, I'll be able to give you a breakdown of the three different cards I'm talking about. All three of these cards are 1996 Kobe Bryant cards. They are 2 Upper Deck cards and 1 Topps card. But the card that I had was a 1996 Collector's Choice PSA 9 Kobe Bryant card. At the time in 2021, I had to spend about $70 to get into this card. If I remember correctly, I bought it at the National. I ended up trading a card that I liked for this card. The 1996 Collector's Choice number 267 card is the card of Kobe going in for a layup, and he has a cast on his arm. It's the one that I like just because of the cast, but at the same time, we look at the 1996 Kobe cards. There's several that are very prominent. For instance, there's one of the Kobe cards that ends up hulking, and what I mean by that, yes, hulking like the superhero. There is one version of his card that ends up turning green because of the longevity and the oxidation of the surface of his cards. They are turning green over time. So there is one of his cards that is hulking. These are not those three. So what I want to talk about is how I was in 1996 Collector's Choice. I moved out of this PSA 9 Collector's Choice, not only because I had negative value in it, but because I started to look at this is not the card that is going to go up over time. So as I scroll up here, you'll see how if you're watching with us live, there are 3 cards that are on this chart. Two of them, all three of them are 1996s. Two of them, one of them is Upper Deck, one of them is Collector's Choice, which is Upper Deck, but a different version of Upper Deck. They are both consistently traded under the $20 mark often. And so we look at those two cards are similar in value. They are following each other. One of them is Kobe having some weird sunglasses on his head. Looks like just the most 90s picture you've ever seen. And then the cast photo. But then there's the 1996 Topps card, which is significantly more valuation-wise. Right now, currently, the other two, the collector's base is around $10 raw. The sunglasses around $20 raw, and then the Topps base is coming in at $53 raw. When you go into graded valuations, you see this as well. It's a similar trajectory with what we saw earlier this week with the Shoheis, and then you have the Bowman Shohei that is priced at a different price point. So when you're looking at those cards, if you can, get into the card that has the level or the bottom level that is higher than all the other trajectories in general. So the bottom of the Topps card is double as higher as some of the recent high transactions as the other two. So I'm saying the levels are completely different, and the floor of the Topps card is so much higher than the ceiling of the Upper Deck cards. So what I was doing is I had this Kobe Collector's Upper Deck, and I wanted to be in the Kobe Topps now that I look at it. I was under the assumption originally in 2021 that you just bought a Kobe card that was a rookie card and it was going to go up. Now I'm under the assumption I need to be in this Topps Kobe card for them to for that card to rise in value. Yes, we are at a bit of a floor right now in terms of where these cards were in comparison to where they were in 2021. And I think we're at a floor in the hobby in general. It's a really good buying opportunity for those of us that are still in the hobby. So the other cards that I moved out. Connor, did I accurately talk about this Kobe Collector's Choice card that I moved out of, or do you have any?
So you had the 1996 Collector's Choice number 267 in PSA 9, and that's the one that you moved out of, correct?
Yes.
Because you felt like it wasn't the right card in retrospect.
Yes.
Okay. And then you've moved out of a couple other cards to move into another card. So go ahead and what else have you moved out of, and what was the reasoning for moving out of them?
So I accurately had to dive deep in that Kobe card so that we understood the other cards that I also got out of. So I got out of a Tatis or Fernando Tatis Jr. 2019 Topps 410. I originally had 6 of these PSA 10s that I bought around $40 because the ceiling of this card was around 100 in its heyday, and now I'm realizing that I don't think it's going to go back up to that point, at least for a long time, because I made an inaccurate evaluation. What I did look at was I was like, okay, this card's at $40. The previous high was at 100 something. I'm just going to buy it now because Tatis Jr. is worth the investment going forward. And I was buying a card that is consistently traded at a different floor and ceiling than where I want the floor and ceiling to potentially go to. The card that's going to moon from him if something happens is the desirable Bowman cards rather than just any Tatis card. Unless the market extremely goes back up, if we see millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars come back in before a natural floor of the entire hobby rises, when Tatis goes and does something incredible, the card that's going to see the most residual impact is the first card that people are going to try to go get. And what I mean by that is when you go to eBay and you type in Fernando Tatis Jr. auto or whatever, the investor is looking for the Bowman Chrome auto, not a Topps 2019 base card that's a PSA 10. So the one that's going to see the most residual rise in a momentary greatness, like if they play well on the field, is not going to be his Topps PSA 10 base card. That's going to be a card that has to rise over time based on where the evaluation of Tatis's stock is at. So the rise will be if he plays good over a long time rather than if he plays good in a moment of success.
Right.
And
Love
so,
it. Yeah, that's a great breakdown on why that wouldn't be the specific card you're looking for on Tatis there.
yeah, so I wanted to get out of that card because I know that the cash flow value is more valuable for me than sitting on this $30 to $50 card for the next 5 years as we wait for the money to come in over time again.
Sure.
And so I was like, okay, so as I took an L on both of these cards, and then the third card is a Mickey Mantle 1966 Topps. Yes, it's a raw Mickey Mantle 1966. People are like, what the heck are you doing? I understand that this is a raw Mickey Mantle card, authentic. But the card that I was trying to buy when I bought this Mickey Mantle card I was like, okay, I'm just going to get into an old school Mickey Mantle. 52 Mantle is the one you want. I mean, there's several other Mickeys, but when you even type in Mickey Mantle into Market Movers, this is like the 8th or 9th card that comes up. I want to be going further up that search engine list and being in the Mickeys that people are expecting to see when they use their search engine. And so when I got out of all of these cards, so in general, I moved out of about 5 to 8 cards, and these are the highlights. So I got a Kobe 3 Tatis Chrome PSA 10s, a Mickey Mantle. What I was able to do is I talked about my play moving into Caleb Williams earlier this week. So I moved all of these cards, got the cash flow back, moved it into a Caleb Williams card that will see more residual rise over the next 6 to 12 months. I think in the next 6 to 12 months, if we come back to this play and we look at this, the Kobe, Tatis, and Mickey are going to be very similar value to where they were when I sold. And then we're going to look at where the Caleb Williams is in May, and it's not going to be at the same evaluation of where I bought in. So what I'm saying is even though these are the right players to have in your portfolio, yes, Tatis is a good player. Yes, Kobe is a great GOAT. Mickey is one of the GOATs as well. Kobe and Mickey are both in the GOAT conversation. And so I moved out of these cards to get into a card that will see massive financial residual rise over the next 6 to 12 months, and I will make an incredible return on the evaluation. For me, I am not like Chad in this way. I am not a collector per se. I am not a guy that looks at cards and wants to just look at them. I want my cards to bring back money for my family to move forward. And so when I look at these cards, even though they're the right names, I have to know these cards are not the ones that are going to move my portfolio positive in the next 6 to 12 months. Moved out of them, moved into a Caleb Williams. Not the same, Connor, in terms of athlete prowess. Kobe, Mickey Mantle, Tatis Jr., and then you've got Caleb Williams way down here. Could be up there someday, but not at all proven. But that's where the money's at right now. And that's where the money will be in April, May, June when he gets drafted. I don't remember when the NFL draft is. I think it's in like May or June.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good points to take away from this. We're going to start with my first point. It was like, guys, we're not just pitching things at you and not doing them ourselves. So Lefty's quite literally getting out of cards that he doesn't feel like are the right player, right time, and right player, right time, and right card, so that he can invest in someone that is less prominent in professional sports, actually isn't even a professional yet, just because he feels like it is the right player, the right time, and the right card there. So, we're preaching, we're doing what we preach here. Another good thing about this is you're really narrowing your focus, right? You don't have to worry about 3 different cards that have questionable sell markers that probably have to wait for seasonal spikes, maybe outside of Tatis, but you're looking at one guy with clear sell markers. What's your marker for everyone real quick on Caleb Williams?
My marker for Caleb Williams is when and if he goes into the NFL draft, he will be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. And I will say he will be the first quarterback off the board. And so my plan with that is going to be put your auction out 7 days previous to the NFL draft, get it out there, get the card sold in the hype cycle of Caleb Williams going into the NFL draft, and then get out while you can. Also, I also, just for full disclosure, this was a 9.5 when I bought it. I'm cracking it and sending it to PSA, and because there's pop 2 PSA 10s. The raw value on this card previously just sold for $700, and I don't believe that this card has seen its heyday yet. This card PSA 10 value sold around $900. I think that PSA 10 value of this card, because it's pop 2 right now, could be anywhere between 1 and 1.5K. So I got it for full disclosure, I got it for about $675. So that's going to be almost a double flip when I got out of these other cards that would have taken forever to get back to a $1,500 evaluation.
I love it. Guys, there's so much strategy here. There's so much strategy here when we break it down. Not only did Lefty snipe something at lower than valuation cost, he consolidated his portfolio. He narrowed his focus. He's got clear sell markers. He's using hype cycles. I love it. I think it's a great play here, Lefty. And like I was saying, I love that we're practicing what we preach here. So I'm going to go ahead and hop into some of my picks for each of our categories like we do on a weekly basis: flyer, a hero, and a GOAT. I do want to preface, these are some questionable picks this week. And I did this because, like you said, you tried to consolidate your portfolio from those 3 different picks, because even though maybe they had 1 or 2 out of the 3 characteristics we talk about being right player, right card, right time, they just didn't fit the bill. So I brought some questionable picks for each one. I'm curious to see what you have to say. They do have upside to them. There is opportunity. However, is the risk tolerance something that we want to take on, or something that we have in our own portfolio? So curious to see what you have to say here. Kicking things off with my Flyers. We talked about this player several months ago, and Paul was adamant. I do not buy current MLB players that are not named Shohei Ohtani. Talked about why this specific player wouldn't be a good buy, but we didn't really dive into specific cards with him. So we're going to talk about Luis Robert, his 2020 Topps Chrome base in PSA 10, which is down 28% the last 14 days. The last sale was $11. You just spoke about these cards particularly not being the right cards for active MLB players. But there's a lot of good characteristics that this card has. So down 28% the last 2 weeks. Last sale, $11. 16 transactions the last 14 days, so it's actually very liquid. Although Robert has had a questionable, I'll say, locker room presence in his career, and we don't know the direction of the organization. He did hit 264, 38 home runs last year. My question for you would be, 1, is this a good investment, a good flyer investment? 2, what would it take for this card to go up? And one thing to keep in mind here is this card really fluctuates between $10 and $30. So it's pretty much near its floor. We talked about floors a minute ago. It's pretty much near its floor. Is this something that could be a bulk play? How much risk is associated with this play? And is this something you're fading?
Let me give you a couple of things before I go into what I'm actually deciding. Luis Robert, or Lou Bob, how he's often talked about in the hobby, is somebody that was a darling for a long time. Lou Bob was supposed to be one of the top 5. When he cracked the major leagues, he got the contract early, I'm pretty sure. He came out and was supposed to be with Soto, Tatis. He was supposed to be up there with those guys, and then he's quickly fallen from grace. One of those being because of injury. 2 of those being locker room presence. 3 of those being, honestly, he is not played up to his value up until last year. And then the 4th of those being, he is with a garbage organization in the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox had everything going for them in like 3 or 4 years ago. And they had the players that they needed. They had the names that they needed. They had the farm system they needed. And it was in the perfect storm, it blew up right in front of their face. They opened a thing that they thought was gold and found out it was fool's gold. Pyrite, if you will. You like that, Connor?
I love that.
And so this card, for instance, look at this red line. This card at one point traded for $400. A PSA 10 of this card was $399. Yes, that was during 2020. Yes, that was during the bubble. But what I'm saying is this card did have some money behind it at one point. And then look at all of these transactions as we move down towards where it will probably remain. So yes, it's at its floor, but I also think this card isn't going to see a massive rise. it could see a double very quickly because a $10 to a $20 card could move very fastly. But when you're looking at eBay transactions, when you're looking at taxing, if you're looking at prices of the opportunity costs and things, and a $10 to $20 flip, even though that technically is a double, is not necessarily the same evaluation that you want from a $100 to a $200 flip. You know, like you don't have the same margin for taxation. You don't have the same margin for time invested. You don't have the same margin for shipping costs, all that kind of things. And so do I believe Lou Bob is still an elite center fielder? If they're an elite center fielder in Lou Bob? Yes. Does he need a trade? Yes. Does he need to get out of Chicago? Yes. Is this still the card that I would invest in if all those things happen? No. This is a base Topps Chrome, and it's exactly what I just brought up with Kobe and Tatis. It is the exact same thing with this Tatis card. Even though Tatis and Lou Bob at one point were considered in the same valuation, they're not now, but if they were, this is the exact same card. Like, it is a card that will rise when the entire market cap rises. You will not see this card go back up to $400 until the entire market cap rises to $400. So you can't just look at this card can go back to its original all-time high of $400. It would take millions of dollars pumping into sports cards for this to go back up to an all-time high. I don't think that this is a card worth investing in.
I love it.
So I'm going to take Jalen Brunson.
I think that's a great breakdown there. So not only is this the wrong card, it might be the right time, but it could potentially be the wrong player as well. So I think that's a good fade there. And Paul's going to, or Lefty's going to take the side of Paul Ramsey there. So I like the fade on that one. And really all three of my picks today are like a test of how narrow do we want our focus to be and how much risk tolerance we have. So moving into the heroes, we're going to go to Jalen Brunson, 2018 Prizm Silver PSA 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were comparing these two cards.
No, that's okay. No
worries.
This
isn't even close.
We'll get there next. We'll get there next. But so we're gonna go to Jalen Brunson's 2018 Prizm Silver PSA 10, down 15% the last 30 days. Which is actually surprising to me because we talk about like the Prizm Silver for him is going to be one of his more high demand cards that has a lot of good characteristics. And so it doesn't make a lot of sense to me right now for this card to be down. He's averaging 25, 4, and 6. Shooting 47% from the field and 46 from 3. The Knicks are 5th in the East, playing pretty solid. Julius Randle's playing well. Immanuel Quickley is continuing to develop. They were just knocked out of the in-season tournament, so I think this card might even dip a little bit more the next couple days. To me, this is a much better option than the Robert play, but I don't know if this is necessarily the best spot to invest your money here. So what do you think on this Jalen Brunson 2018 Prizm Silver PSA 10?
This is another curious situation to me, Connor. I don't understand how the Knicks don't have one card darling on their team. I don't know if it's because they're the Knicks or because they have brought in players that are not flashy names but are good on paper. It feels like to me that the Knicks are building a franchise like Moneyball. You know, like they're like it feels like they're building a franchise of like, that's not a flashy name. And then he looks over and he goes, what does he do though? He puts it in the bucket, sir. Okay, bring him in. You know, like Jalen Brunson, Immanuel Quickley, Julius Randle, all these guys are good. Randle had a 40-plus game last night. Yes, they lost, but he played well against Giannis Antetokounmpo. You know, he's guarded by a guy who's twice his size, and he's putting up 40 on him. Not a bad defender either. I mean, Giannis these days is not focusing on his defense, but that's a different conversation. But what I'm saying is Jalen Brunson, Quickley, and Randle, I believe all are undervalued where they should be if their name was different.
Okay.
Do I think that their market is going to rise? Two of these, yes. I don't think Julius Randle could literally win the MVP, and I think people would still be like, nah, he's just, you know, like, I think they just don't like that his general body physique is
Style physique,
fluffy. Like it's the same with Jokic. It's the same with Doncic. It's like the same body style where people are just like, I don't like looking at him. Like I don't like the way he plays. It's just like,
Sure.
grow up. But anyway, I think Brunson and Quickley both have ceilings that are way higher than their current valuation. I'm going to bring up Immanuel Quickley in a second, but I also like that you brought in this Jalen Brunson card because I have talked about Quickley being the Nick that I'm investing in. I just assumed that the PSA silver of Jalen Brunson was way more than this. That's why I didn't even look at it. When you're getting a PSA 10 Prism silver of a starting point guard that is dominating the floor for $110?
Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I should have mentioned that price point. That was important.
This is $300 less than some of the guys that are at his level in the NBA. So what is the $300 difference with Jalen Brunson? I don't think that it's appropriate. I am confused on why it's that low. And so with that, I think the pop count is nice. 382 is all that this PSA 10 valuation is. This is a PSA 10 Prism Silver that I would look at investing in just because every single marker that Brunson has is there. This is the right card. This is a potentially right player. One of the probably top 5, top 10 point guards in the NBA. I mean, like, look at this card next to Fox. We've talked a lot about Fox this week.
Yep.
I would say Brunson and Fox are comparable to me in terms of skill set. I mean, their actual skills are different, but in terms of like the output, star power they have, I would consider Brunson and Fox not very far off in terms of star power, at least in rankings of point guards. And so, man, this is a card that I would definitely get into if I could find it at $110.
I thought you made a good point about it. I think that one of the reasons that this card is undervalued is because the Knicks don't necessarily have like, even when, and Jalen Brunson, it works for Jalen Brunson where he was before. He wasn't the best player on Dallas, even though he was blooming and got signed for a big contract in New York. Obviously, he had Luka ahead of him, but now that he's in New York, even with how well he's playing, the Knicks don't really have like a single face of their organization. They don't have that singular superstar. They have like you're saying, they've got 3 or 4 really good players. And it's not to say that maybe one of them couldn't be the face of another team, but all of their output's so similar that I think it's difficult for fans to differentiate who's the guy in New York. So it makes it very hard for that valuation to stick out like some other players that are the guy on their team, like the Halliburtons, like the Foxes, who, even though he has similar output, his valuation is much, much higher.
I think people assume that Jalen Brunson in the long term is going to be like a Grant Williams. And he's totally not. Not even the same player at all. But for some reason, I feel like people think that Jalen...
You mean just in terms of turning into a role player?
Yes. I believe that they think down the road he's going to be a role player that's going to get a sixth man position somewhere. There are certain NBA players that just don't get the same respect that they should. Like Van Fleet, like very good player, but people just don't care about him. They see him as a role player long term.
How much do we need to factor that into trying to invest in him then? Does that mean his ceiling is going to be much lower because just no one cares? He's not active enough in the hobby?
I mean, yeah, I think so. I think you've got to take the risk of this is the... No one's going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh, frick, Jalen Brunson? Yeah, top 5 NBA player. So you're going... If you do invest in this card, you're going to have to know that no matter how long you hold this card, even if the card goes up, it's not going to be a Tyrese Maxey PSA 10 silver. It's not going to be the card that everybody shows up to the card show saying, man, if I could just find a Brunson when I get in there. You're going to have to know that I think this probably has a ceiling of $250 maybe.
Okay. So general consensus is undervalued right now, could be potentially a good hero play to make. Not super high risk, really. It's just not high ceiling.
Yeah.
Would you agree? Okay.
Yeah,
let's roll into the GOAT. I picked an interesting one here. I went with Peyton Manning, one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time, and a no doubt top quarterback of all time. 1998 Bowman base PSA 10. Why did I pick this card? Because I have questions for you, Lefty. So Peyton Manning, although retired for I believe 7 years, maybe 8, he does have his own broadcast for these NFL games alongside his brother Eli. He's in tons of commercials. He's very prominent as a face in social media, in commercials and ads, things like that, advertisements. And this card's down 40% over the last 30 days. Last sale, just $103. It's liquid enough. It's traded 10 times the last 30 days. And it spikes all the time. Like, if you look at its data, you know I'm going to do it. It's between $100 and $225 pretty much year round, and it just goes boop, 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 like up and down over and over. So my question here is, one, does any of Peyton's excess of screen time, though retired, present itself to make this card so volatile in terms of all the spikes that you see from it up and down? Does it help with sell markers? And is this a play, even though we don't have a marker for it, is this a play to be made where you can snipe something around $100 and with historical data, even not even using the term historical, just looking at the last couple of months of data, really, with how many sales we've had, you can see that it's just going to go up and down. Is this something you try to snipe at a low price, not even need a marker, and you can sell it for, 50 to 100% profits?
Peyton is a good example of exactly what I'm talking about with Jalen Brunson. He's an athlete that people love to talk about, but don't love like to just. He's not flashy. You know, like Peyton did not have the body of an athlete. He used his mind to be better than everyone else. Like if you look at Brady's sales and Peyton Manning sales, Brady's sales were incredibly different. And that's because like Brady was a hobby darling, and Peyton has not ever gotten the respect that he deserves. If you're looking at the all-time data of this card, in 21, this peaked at $580. Like how many cards have we talked about being, like that? Okay, for instance, the Lou Bob Topps Chrome base card sold for $400 at the same price period or same time period. You're telling me that a Lou Bob or like random Chrome Lou Bob rookie card is the same evaluation of a Peyton Manning card? No way. And so I'm going to stay out of any Peyton Manning cards because they just don't go up. Not that I don't believe in him as an athlete, not that I don't believe in him as a personality on TV.
Okay.
I love Peyton Manning, but I'm not willing to love his collector basis. Okay. And let me also talk about the charts up and downs real quick.
Sure.
Hindsight is always 20/20, right? We always look at the charts and we're like, wow, this card is going up and down in valuation a lot. But let's bring it to the present. When a card is the next card to be bid on, those bids are coming in live. And you don't know, like say I just am like, okay, I'm going to put my random Peyton Manning card up today. In the next 7 days, something could happen with Peyton Manning and it goes up. But something could not happen with Peyton Manning and it just sells for, the new floor. When you are live selling, you don't know if your card is going to be the floor or the peak of a card that flip trades often.
Sure.
So that's super risky. Holding a card that is flip trading is super risky because you've got to be super, super on top of when you sell the card. Like it almost needs to be the only card you're paying attention to because you've got to know when is the right time period to flip in and out of this card. Sure. I would rather get into a card that doesn't flip trade, but that rises over time, like with a normal rise, because then you're like, okay, if I buy it at $20, I can sell it at $100 when we get to those markers. Not like, oh, I can, does that make sense?
Yeah, so kind of stay away from volatility here in the perspective of if you're listing these as auctions, you don't know if you're going to be the ceiling that you're hoping to be or the floor that you just purchased at. And like Paul Hickey says, if you're a wash, that's a loss for us because we want to help you guys make money. So Lefty's fading Peyton Manning here. I do want to ask one question. There's been a lot of debate on the show between yourself, Dr. Crack, and Paul between Buy It Nows or best offers / listing as auctions. So go ahead and click on that for those watching. Lefty, go and click on that 90-day chart rather than all data for me real quick. I don't love that either. But my question here is if you, in my opinion, if you want to make this play, and Lefty's fading it, I do want to put that out there. Lefty's already faded it. But if you're buying this card and you can snipe one for around the $100 price point, and you see that it's jumped up and down between $100 and $200, if you have this card and you can't do anything about it, Lefty, is this something that you would want to list as a buy it now / best offer and just leave it up there until you get something you're comfortable with, rather than listing it as an auction to avoid having that floor smack you in the face?
Yeah, I think that's what we're seeing here. Is we're seeing a card that is it's potentially low pop. The cards that it's just over $1,000 pop count. So what we're probably seeing here with these flip trades, Connor, what's actually probably happening under the explanation of the data is you're probably not seeing a lot of these cards hit auctions. And the cards that are hitting auctions are the ones that are hitting the floor because it's not a commonly searched card. The eyeballs for this card are not high like some other cards. And then the peaks of this is probably like, hey, somebody wants to go find a Peyton Manning rookie card. They go and look on eBay, Peyton Manning rookie card. There's no auctions available. And so somebody does have a bin, and someone has decided to buy it now. Someone's decided to cash that bin, which raises the floor back up. So I would assume, without knowing where all these what all is happening in this data, I would assume that these floors are auctions and some of the peaks are buy it nows when there is no auctions available. Cool. So yes, essentially yes, if you want to make sure, if you do have a card like this and you want to make sure that you're going to get the peak of it, you can leave it up for a buy it now for what you want to get out of it. Let's go back to this 90-day chart that we're looking at. Right now, we're at $103. There is 2 of them in the last 90 days that sold for $180. I would assume that those $180 ones were buy it nows. And I would assume that if you did buy this card at $103, you could put it back up for $180, saying, "Oh, in the last 90 days, this has sold for this amount of money." And I assume that eventually that someone is going to say, "There's none on auction. You know what? I'm willing to pay $180 for a Peyton Manning card." Maybe it's somebody who has literally no interaction with the hobby. They're buying a Christmas gift for somebody. A wife is like, "I'm going to try to buy a PS or a really nice rookie card for my husband for Christmas." She didn't know what the evaluation is. She said, "Oh wow, under $200? Heck yeah."
Lefty, great breakdown there. And Chad just gave us some affirmation. He said Lefty nailed this one. Not a single one on auction right now, but 91 listed at buy it now / best offers. So Lefty's totally on the right track there. Essentially, Lefty's fading the play. However, if you are stuck with this card, I think the move here is going to be to list it at a buy it now / best offer to avoid, like I said, that floor smacking you in the face. Lefty, we're 45 minutes in. Let's go ahead and roll into your path to profit. I was excited about your show notes for this one just because sometimes the right play is knowing when not to make the play, right? It's about having some patience here, and we've been preaching this stuff a lot lately. You might have the right player, you might have the right card, but there's a potential that it's not the right time. So go ahead and hop into your path to profit and kind of what you're doing here to mitigate risk in the portfolio while still making sure you're maximizing profits when you do make your plays.
Yeah, so what we talk about every week with this segment is a way that a new path or a new segment or a new strategy that I'm using to try to get into a new player. And so last night I was talking to Connor and I was like, "Connor, I don't have a new one that I'm doing. I'm still working on the previous 3 to 5 that I have put forward this month." And he was like, "Well, just explain why." And you're exactly right. Sometimes we have the perfect strategy and the perfect play, but it takes time for those plays to materialize and to articulate into reality. For instance, the plays that I've been talking about this month, we have a Tyrese Halliburton Silver Prism PSA 10. There is one available right now as of last night on eBay, and it's $600. That's $250 or $150 higher than the ceiling of where I want to go. And I have put in 2 offers on this card and been rejected twice on this by this buyer. He knows what he has. He knows he's the only one on eBay. So I can't find this card right now, which is why the other day I said, if anybody has this card and wants to sell it to me, even 5 to 10% above comps right now, I'm willing to get into this card because I think the long run on this card is very high. Same with Ohtani right now. Ohtani is a little bit different because there's so many of his cards. There is ways you can get into Ohtani right now, but people know they have Ohtani cards. People know that if they're going to eBay, they're going to list their cards for a premium because they do not want to be peeled away from an Ohtani card. No one is like, oh, man, I have all these Ohtani cards, and I just need to get out of every single bit of them. No one is looking at Ohtani the way they're looking at Ja Morant right now. No one – I mean, maybe not right now, but 6 months ago. People with Ja Morant cards were like, oh, crap, what am I going to do with all this? I have $1 million of Ja Morant cards right here. What am I going to do with this? I need to panic sell all of them. Same with Josh Giddey a couple weeks ago. Everybody was like, crap, I'm holding this asset that now I can't move at all. No one is thinking that with Shohei Ohtani. Everybody's like, you can pay a premium for my Shohei Ohtani card if you want it, but I'm more than comfortable holding this card. So it's going to take a real strategist to find the right card in the right price point. So Tyrese Halliburton, Ohtani. We've talked about the Bronny cards being a position that I'm making because of all the Bronny markers over the last couple of weeks. And then we've talked about Immanuel Quickley PSA 10 silvers. There are 0 Immanuel Quickley PSA 10 silvers on auction right now. So I'm having to be super, super, super patient with my buys for December. It is buying season, not only for me, but for everyone. And another thing is I know that when we share our plays with you guys are also going out there and competing with us for the plays that we are trying to make. And so that's part of our show. We love giving that content out. But at the same time, I don't want to reach in scenarios where I need to be patient. I need to be patient if I'm going to make these plays pay off over the next 6 to 12 months. And for instance, I was patient with Caleb Williams. I could have gone out and made any massive Caleb Williams card, but I was patient and found the one that I felt had the most like meat on the bone still. Had the most meat on the bone here. And I don't think any of these cards that I've discussed, I have had a Ohtani situation that I am currently bidding on that I'm not going to say anything about until next week so nobody snipes it. But what I'm saying with the other guys, my Immanuel Quickley play, I'm going to talk about in a second, but there's just been nothing available on eBay for these cards. It seems like every play that I'm making that I'm like, oh, yeah, that's going to be a great buy. I go to eBay and there's just nothing. And I'm like, son of a gun, everybody knows. Or nobody knows. There's one of these two. Everybody knows or nobody knows. And at the same time, like these cards are going to be available someday. But right now, I've got to be patient. And even though December is buying season, I'm not just going to buy anything.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect breakdown. And Chad mentioned here, and you've talked about this too, Lefty. You talked about this on the Monday show about Chad was discussing how it might be too late to hop in. He's talking about how all cards but one, Shohei's pitching, Topps Chrome pitching, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong there, but have gone up. So that's really the only card you can invest in. And he expected that to be up within the next 4 hours or 48 hours. So you talked about, well, yes, that might be the case. However, after he signs the contract, we could be able to buy Ohtani at a dip, and there are more markers for him there. So Chad says, should we be patient after he signs a big contract? There'll be Ohtani's for sale, probably some good deals in late January, early February. So if you're unable to get Ohtani, the right card at the right price point, is this something you're going to look to do? Wait until the beginning of the year to find better deals and capitalize on margins there?
Yeah, after Chad exited the show on Monday, I brought this up at a small point right before the end of the show, saying there will be other buying opportunities for Shohei after he chooses the franchise. Like we saw our first big winter move last night. We saw Alex Verdugo get traded from the Boston Red Sox to the New York Yankees, which effectively, in my head, puts the New York Yankees out of the Juan Soto trade, which if they are moving away from Juan Soto, I think you can see that the Yankees are not willing to overpay on their evaluation. You know they've had conversations about Juan Soto. You know they've had evaluations about Yamamoto. You know they've had conversations with Shohei and his agent. I think we've seen the Yankees over the past 10 years not be the Yankees that we saw the past 100 years. They are not willing to say, here's a blank check, we just want that player. They are the GM currently is willing to say, we will pay this for that. And the people are like, we're not taking that because you're the Yankees, you can pay us more than that. And they're like, okay, we'll go get somebody else. And I think that's what we saw with Alex Verdugo. I think the Padres said, we want Spencer Jones plus in a trade. And they said, we're not doing that. And they said, okay, we'll kick rocks. And so then they went to their secondary option and they went to the Boston Red Sox and said, Alex Verdugo, we want to bring him in. Let me just point out, Verdugo and Soto are wildly different players. I think the New York Yankees have completely settled into a long-term play here. Verdugo is not brought in to win games next year. Verdugo is brought in to make a seasonable starter for the future so that they can get beyond this year. If you look at their roster right now, it's sad, dude. It does not look like a Yankees roster that you would think of. So, with that being said, Shohei's market. I know I just went on a Verdugo train for a second. The reason why I explained that is because with Shohei, when he goes and makes his choice, we will see a spike. And I think we will see a spike in his evaluation. But there will also be buyers that are buying now, and Chad talked about this on Monday, so give credit to Chad on this. There are going to be buyers that are upset with the team he got on, and they're like, oh, now I'm selling this Shohei card. You know, say it's an Angels fan right now that's buying Shohei cards because they're delusional and they think he's going to come back to the Los Angeles Angels. Then he goes and signs with the Dodgers. The last thing that they want to do is hold the guy that is their crosstown rival right now. They're getting out of that card. And they're going to be selling for an extremely different price point than we have this week. If we have Shohei make the decision today or tomorrow, Friday, there will be more sales that come forward. There are people that are holding the sale to see where his market goes. And once he chooses, there will be people saying, cash it. This is the Dodgers. I'm cashing in. And then there's going to be other sellers that are going to say, Dodgers? You got to be freaking kidding me. Get this on eBay. I don't respect this. There's going to be sellers that are in two different mindsets anytime that a franchise is chosen. There's been a lot of talk that he's going to end up in San Francisco. I don't think there's no way in heck he ends up in San Francisco because this guy is looking at breaking records for home runs, and that is the most pitcher-friendly ballpark out there. You know, Triples Alley is, goes on like a polo grounds. That's not going to make sense for you probably, Connor. But
no, it does.
Okay, good. There's no way he's signing in San Francisco. And I think if he signs in San Francisco, his market goes down. He could sign with the Mariners. The Mariners have created a spot for him in the outfield. They have created a spot in their books for him. They could go get him. They could also go get Juan Soto. They were Juan Soto people when he was traded to the Padres originally. There are teams that he could end up on that don't have huge markets. He is not bona fide Dodger material right now. Somebody is going to say, Shohei is going to turn around our franchise. We need to go get it. If you're the Mariners GM and you're saying, okay, it's going to cost us between $500 and $600 million to bring in this player, but this is going to change the face of what we're doing, and we're trying to turn a new leaf as the Seattle Mariners franchise. Texas Rangers just won the World Championship or the World Series. The Houston Astros are always there. The Angels have, Mike Trout and Shohei of last year, and the A's have just moved to a new city, and we're the ugly stepchild Mariners. We got to make a splash here. And they go out and sign Shohei. I could see that being the case. Now, you could paint that narrative, and it makes sense. So yeah. I think there will be opportunities for Shohei after he signs, because I'm kind of expecting him to not go to the Dodgers and go to a team that people just aren't expecting. You know, what if he goes to the Cubs? The Cubs were a really significant team in the original 2008 or 2016 pitch for if Shohei's going to come to their team. He loves the Cubs. So
Right.
I think, yes, there will be other buying opportunities.
A lot of good speculation there. So really to tie it up in a knot, one of the main things that you mentioned there that I thought was interesting is that wherever Shohei goes, there are going to be disappointed fans somewhere holding his print that are going to want to move that card, and we're likely going to see prices drop. So not saying necessarily that that's the main reason for a dip, but I thought that was a really insightful point you made there for why we could see more affordable prices for Shohei to buy at the beginning of the year.
Yeah,
I love it. Let's go ahead.
All that sports talk is for the card evaluation. All that is saying, all that speculation aside, Shohei's market is confusing over the next 6 to 12 months. He's not pitching. Previously, we've seen, Chad has a hot take of where he's actually not going to be as good this year because he's not pitching. And we've seen how his other previous years where he was recovering from injury, he actually slumped a little bit. I agree with that. I think we could see a slump in what he's doing. But at the same time, this guy's a $600 million player. So Shohei's market will have a dip after he chooses between that and March. And that's actually the time I'm excited to get in on it.
Awesome. I love it. Let's go ahead and roll into Invest or Fade for the week, a segment where I pitch Lefty 2 cards head to head. And he's got to pick one. And I think I picked some good options this week, and it's gonna give Lefty some problems. So if you're listening / watching, I hope you enjoy the mayhem that I'm about to put Lefty through, because these are some competitive ones, and I think going to be very insightful getting Lefty's feedback. I'm going to start with basketball, and I know I'm heavy on basketball a lot, but don't worry. We're going to do some baseball, and we're going to touch football here. So starting with basketball, we're putting Darius Garland, and I use a lot of players that we've been talking about on the Monday show, Sports Card Strategy show. So Darius Garland, 2019 Prizm Base PSA 10. This is down 54% the last 14 days. It's traded 17 times, so very liquid. Last sale, $11 for a 2019 Prizm Base PSA 10 of Darius Garland. I still think this guy's going to be an elite point guard. Gary from Hoops and Cards, shout out Gary for coming on the show. He was talking about how Donovan Mitchell's taking so much of his usage away, and when Donovan doesn't play, Darius pops off. We've seen some injury issues for Darius this year, and he hasn't played as well as we've expected, but he still averages 19, 3, and 6, shooting 46% from the field. His three-point percentages are down a little bit. Guys, $11 for this card. This guy is like, I think within the next 3 or 4 years, as we start to see the face and the kind of the makeup of the league shift, some of these stars like Steph, even LeBron's going to be gone, Steph, some of these older guys transitioning out of the league, Kevin Durant, that we're going to see, like, people are going to have to step up. I think Tyrese Maxey's going to be one of these guys. Obviously, Luka's going to be a face of the league, Jason Tatum, things like that. But I think Darius Garland is going to be one of the top players in the league once he gets his own time to shine, once Donovan Mitchell heads for typically or hypothetically the New York Knicks. I think his usage is just down right now, and he's not really getting his opportunity. $11 for this card just feels crazy to me, Lefty. What are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are this is a base prism, first off, and we are recommending you guys buy into silver prisms.
Right.
So let's just take the moment to say this is a base prism. There's a wild amount of base prism cards out there. So if you can afford getting into a silver, go ahead and get into the refractor. That is the rookie card for basketball. And we talked about that on the Overflow show this week. But this is an $11 card when a Zion base prism is $80 ish. So is Darius Garland, 7 levels underneath Zion? No, he's not. Is he a double underneath Cade Cunningham? No, he's not. Do people care more about Cade Cunningham in this market? Yes.
Yeah. Let me give the breakdown. Sorry, guys. I should have mentioned this. We're putting Darius Garland up against Cade Cunningham. My apologies. Cade Cunningham's 2021 Prizm Base PSA 10. So same card, PSA 10s. It's at a similar kind of spot, down 39% the last 14 days. 12 transactions over that time period. Last sale, $22, so twice as expensive as Darius Garland's. He's averaging 22, 4, and 7. He's not very efficient, which is something that bothers me a lot with young guys, because I think when we see younger guys with high efficiency, we're looking at people that have long-term high upside, not necessarily in the card market, but as NBA players turning into stars. Shooting 42% from the field, just 35% from three. The Pistons are 2-18 the very bottom of their conference. Who are you rolling with here? If gun to your head, you got to pick one between Garland and Cunningham. You can't invest in the Prizm Silver. You got to pick the Prizm base from one of these two. Who are you picking?
Cade Cunningham. I just think he has
Really?
I think he's a more flashy name.
Okay.
In this, I'm gonna pick the card darling, not because I think he's better. I think Darius Garland is way better than Cade Cunningham, but I think I can sell a Cade Cunningham way faster, and the pop count is 1,248 rather than 5,608.
Okay, I respect that answer. Yeah. Like something to take away from Lefty's answer there is like you got to be able to remove what your heart says and look at the market, see what the actual sports card market is doing rather than what your heart thinks these players are doing. Because if you're someone that watches the game, you see Darius as a more efficient guard. He's, in my opinion, he has better floor general ability and court vision. Obviously, Cade Cunningham gets a ton of usage over in the trash franchise that is the Detroit Pistons. Sorry, Paul, but yeah, I think that's a good answer there, Lefty. If you feel more comfortable that because he's been a hobby darling, he's a flashier name, that this is a better investment there. They're both such low investments that I like to pick. And
I think Cade Cunningham being down 66.2% right now is more appealing.
What's that time period?
The last year. But if you look at the last 90 days, he is 48% down. So,
sure. Yep. Cade Cunningham over Darius Garland's Prizm base for Lefty there. Moving right along, we're going to get into some vintage baseball. In my opinion, these count as vintage. They're before I was born. So anything before I was born, for me, that's vintage. I picked this because we don't talk about vintage baseball much. So as I pitch these names, Lefty, I want you to kind of discuss, are there markers for these guys? Is this kind of just more of a cyclical thing where you got to wait for seasonality, hype spikes to carry your profits? We're putting Ken Griffey Jr., 1989, Donruss base PSA 10, which is down 30% over the last 30 days. Last sale, $257, and has traded 14 times over the last 30 days. It's basically sitting at a 2-year low. This is typically like a $350 card. So we're going to put that left-handed swinger against another Barry Bonds 1986 tops traded base PSA 10, down 11% the last 30 days. Last sale, $260. So very similar prices, or going prices for both of these cards right now. It is more liquid, even though it hasn't dropped as much as Griffey's card has. It's 34 transactions over the last 30 days, which is near a 3-year low for this card. I think this is also near a $350 card. So what are the markers for vintage baseball? Where do you make money? And for Barry Bonds, I'm curious to see what you think on a decision change on his potential entering the Hall of Fame. Is that something that could happen? And would that be a massive marker for him that would kind of boost his upside relative to this Ken Griffey Jr. card? That was a mouthful.
Yeah. Well, first off, great comparison. Look at this all-time chart. Like, you've smashed a relatively very similar trajectory of these past two cards. Price evaluation. You've got the two big names in the hobby. Great job. For in the past 90 days, even you've seen these charts relatively go together. Griffey is a more promoted name. Let's put it that way. It's a safer name in the PR world right now. Sure. Ken Griffey. Like if you are a company that's going to sign a sponsorship with one of these players, you're calling Griffey 2 times before you're calling Barry once. And so, but I think that narrative is eventually going to change with Bonds. Bonds is a player that was elite, just world class. Yes, he's stuck with the ding of the steroid era. And he was the best in the steroid era. So even if now this isn't a discussion about steroid era, but I do think there is an opportunity for Barry Bonds to enter the Hall in a different way. The original voting. Now I would need to freshen up on this, and Connor and I don't look. I don't look at the cards he's presented to me before the show starts, because I want to come in with fresh evaluation,
better genuine answer.
Yeah. And so, had I known beforehand, I would have actually had the right language of this. But there are other ways to get into the Hall other than the original voting. There's this process that's I don't remember exactly what it's called, but basically it goes to, rather than the original voters, I think it goes to like maybe the people that are already in the Hall of Fame can vote in a player like once every 15 years after they've exited the ballot. And so I think there are other ways where Barry could get into the Hall of Fame that I think do happen eventually.
Yeah, so I've got it pulled up real quick. So Bonds is out of eligibility for, and this is according to Sports Illustrated, for BBWA election in the Hall, but he can still get in via committee votes.
Yes.
That was as of July 11th, 2023.
So committee vote can get him in, and I do think he eventually does get in alongside some of the other steroid guys. And I think when that happens, not that his name will be exonerated, because they will know, oh, he's in the Hall, but he is still have an asterisk next to him. But I don't think that necessarily changes the voters or changes the buyers. I don't think everybody's going to be like, oh, he's in the Hall, now I'm buying. Like I still think the stigma is going to be the same. Okay. But I think this card is one that's worth investing in. Plus, if you're putting me gun to my head against these two, especially with how similar their price points have been for the all-time data, not over the last 90 days, we're talking all-time. I'm taking the Pirates card because I just like the look of it, and I think if you're giving me a choice between two cards that have the exact same data and they're both PSA 10s, I'm just going to go with the one I like. And I like the look of this Pirates card. I think the Pirates old school hat with him looking like like Barry Bonds is like young Barry Bonds here. You're not seeing steroided Barry Bonds. You're seeing the athlete that was going to be one of the best baseball players ever. And the one with this Ken Griffey card makes him look like not Ken Griffey. That doesn't look like Ken Griffey to me. So I'm taking the Pirates card just because of the way it looks, because both of these I think are good long-term investments.
Okay. So just to clarify, you're essentially saying that there's such similar valuation in upside and risk tolerance that you're at the point where it's really a coin flip and you're taking the card that you like more. Is that correct?
Yes.
Love it.
I mean, every chart we look at,
they're
exactly
so
the same.
neck and neck. Yeah. Look at that.
I mean, there's been times where Barry's higher. There's been times where Griffey's higher. There's been times where they're both at the same evaluation. In October of last year, this card sold for the same price 17 times. Yep. So give me the one I like more. I like the Pirates.
Taking Barry Bonds. I like it. All right, up next. I am testing, and I'm almost upset with myself for picking one of these players because I think it's going to make you biased in your decision. But what I'm trying to do here is test how much we value quarterbacks in football over skill position players. So I'm giving you a quarterback that we don't believe in or a skill player with markers that you have to pick from here. So we're going to take Devontae Smith's 2021 Optic Downtown PSA. Devontae Smith is not even the best receiver on his own team, though he is having a good year. 64 catches for 834 yards and 6 touchdowns. Eagles are most certainly contenders. In my opinion, the favorites ruin the Super Bowl at the moment, even with the loss to the Niners. They're down 22% the last 30 days. This card is 2021 Optic Downtown PSA 10, down 22% the last 30 days. Last sale, $430. 12 trades over the last 30 days. And in May, this card sold for $650. So even if you don't even need necessarily, if you're willing to hold for a certain amount of time, you don't even need to have them win the Super Bowl, which obviously would be a positive if he plays well. But you could wait for seasonality here, and this card turns into a $600 card based on historical data. Versus Kenny Pickett, 2022 Contenders Rookie Ticket Auto PSA 10, down 30% the last 30 days. 10 transactions, was selling above $1,000 in the preseason. This is roughly a $350 card right now.
Oh man, Connor, come on!
How much do we value quarterbacks over skill position players? Who you rolling with here? This is the one that I thought would make you sweat.
I'm pissed off about this one because everything in my bones is like, pick something other than Kenny Pickett. Like, Kenny Pickett's terrible. You got to go somewhere else. But I don't think Kenny Pickett's Mac Jones bad. I think Kenny Pickett is just bad. not
bad.
Mac Jones bad. Like, I think he is Carson Wentz bad, not Mac Jones bad. I mean, we're talking, future backup in the NFL bad, not future couch sitter.
Sure.
And Devonta Smith, I don't think we've seen the best of him yet. Sure, yeah. I mean, it's I'm gonna take Kenny Pickett, Connor.
I know. I knew you would. And I think sometimes it's okay to say there's not one clear-cut answer. Like, I think the answer to this depends on your cash flow and what your long-term goals are. Because if you have to buy a card right now knowing you need cash flow soon, the play to me is Devonta Smith because he's got short-term markers. We've got a playoff run coming up. Kenny Pickett is just not, to me, a great short-term investment, but long-term investments, because of how much this card is down and what the NFL hype cycles can do to a guy like Kenny Pickett, I think that he would be the better investment for someone willing to wait for the offseason / that 6 to 12 month period.
I mean, the Steelers might make the playoffs, Connor.
Yeah, it's Kenny Pickett.
What's
he going to do in the playoffs?
I don't care. If they make the playoffs, I'm selling this on a 7-day auction before that game starts.
Okay. That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. I still think that short term, Devonta Smith's the better play here.
Take a punter over Pickett.
Yeah. Bride Steeler 714 says, "What is up with the Kenny Pickett talk?" I would take a punter over Kenny Pickett. Bride, I think I'm on the same page. I can't believe it, but I think I'm rolling with Devonta Smith for short term. Again, I think long term Pickett's probably the better investment. Lefty's taking Pickett either way because Pickett is now Lefty's guy.
Oh no. If that's the way this narrative is going to get painted, I'm picking Devonta Smith. I would rather lose money than be.
Let's talk about
in the Kenny Pickett.
Let's talk a little bit about why you would take Pickett in this scenario over a skill position guy.
Yeah, that's a great point. Okay, so when people are investing in football cards, they are investing in quarterbacks or the very rare occasion that there's someone on their team that is worth investing in outside of a quarterback. Devonta Smith, I think, is, in my opinion, maybe the fourth option on that team investing-wise. Do the math in your head.
I've got Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I don't know who the other one is.
Who are you missing?
I want it to be Jason Kelce, but I don't think
that is who it is.
Is he has investable cards?
He does have cards. I think that because of where the media is at, I would rather have a Jason Kelce card than I would rather have a Devonta Smith card. That's crazy. A center in the NFL.
But he's everywhere. He's
everywhere, and his brother is everywhere. The fact
and he's
that
a Hall of Famer.
Yes. Yeah, he's the modern day Jeff Saturday for sure.
Absolutely.
And so he's fourth on the Eagles, I think, in cards I would invest in.
Okay.
Kenny Pickett, if I'm investing in a Steeler right now, which I'm not, I'm picking Kenny Pickett because he's the guy. He's the guy. I'm not going to take Pickens or, I'm not going to take Najee Harris. Has me scared, man. I think his market is going to. I don't know he definitely is not the player that I thought he was going to be. And Kenny Pickett still is going to be the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the biggest franchises in the NFL. Honestly, if I could invest in their coach, I would do that more than Kenny Pickett. But, yeah, I'm going to take this Kenny Pickett auto because RTA PSA 10, when the Pittsburgh Steelers make the playoffs, is going to sell for, I would imagine, around $500.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, getting reflection from Lefty there, I think you're probably on the right page. It's just Kenny Pickett. I think my morals make it difficult for me to
Justin Stewart says, I have so many Kenny Pickett cards. If you have so many Kenny Pickett cards, get out of them when they make the playoffs. Don't wait for the game. As soon as you find out when the game is going to be, set your timer on your watch or on your phone to go off and have those listed 7 days prior to before the game starts.
Good stuff, Lefty. Let's roll into, I say it every week, one of my favorite segments, the 1K budget builder. Lefty, I'm going to let you rattle off all three of your picks, your low end, your mid tier, and your high end investments. For those of you that don't listen to this show often, we get $1,000 every week to invest in a low end, mid tier, and high tier player. You can invest however many cards you want for each one in terms of if you want to get 3 of the same card for a low end tier player, as long as it equals about $1,000. I am tracking these, and we're probably going to give updates roughly every month. So probably next week's show, we'll give updates there. But it is on Lefty to keep me advised when he wants to sell. So what I'm going to do, Lefty, I need to share this with you so you have visibility, but I'm going to create a document that we both have where it has a full list of what we're investing in. And I might try to use market movers. If you're not using market movers, you should, and you should use our code for savings there, no offseason at market movers. We might use that so that we have a full list of what we're doing to find accurate and up-to-date pricing movements so that you can let me know when things are changing there. But nonetheless, go ahead and hop into your 3 picks for the week, Lefty, and then I'm prepping you for mine because I think I brought it strong this week.
Well, here's what you need to know. I'm selling Joe Flacco because Joe Flacco did exactly what I thought he was going to do.
Already marked it, brother.
Yes,
already marked
sir.
it all.
I am. It's exactly what I thought. As soon as I saw the news, I was like, he's going to come in. He's going to lead this team. He's going to put up 200 plus yards. He's going to throw a really juicy looking deep ball, and he's going to lose. And so that's exactly what happened, Connor. But I think Joe Flacco does end up winning some games for this Browns team, and I think he is the Browns quarterback that's going to start a playoff game. So I think Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco are going to start playoff games this year. And I don't think they're going to be the worst quarterbacks that do that. We could see Beathard start a playoff game after Trevor Lawrence sprained his ankle last.
CJ Beathard, yep.
I mean,
sure, good.
We are seeing some just horrific injury updates for quarterbacks in the NFL. You know, like think about how many backup quarterbacks are starting games right now. Crazy. It makes me think next year I'm just going to go out and buy one card of every NFL backup because if there's this many that are going to start games, I feel like you're going to make money on that. Like if we could go,
could be some strategy there.
If we could retrospectively go back and look at the evaluation of every backup quarterback in the NFL and then buy cards before they started their games and then look at what the profit loss on that would be very interesting. Very interesting data on that one. Or data. Now I don't know which one. Now I don't know what's the right one.
I've done this.
But you have done this to me. So this week's $1,000, I'm super pumped about because I'm bringing back up something that I have not talked about in a long time, and that is the world's greatest game, footy. I am a massive football fan, and I'm talking about the round version. Huge upside, I think, for these 3 players, and I'm bringing it strong today, my friend. My $1,000 is going into 3 what I am considering wonder kids in the soccer market. So I'm going to start with 2 2022-2023 Panini Chrome Rasmus Højlund Contender Optic rookie cards. I loved this card so much as I was researching it, Connor. I bought one. I literally went out and bought this card. This is not a figurative. I literally went out and bought a Rasmus Højlund card. He is tearing it up at Manchester United as a $75 million August transaction for this Manchester United team. This is a 20-year-old first-year Manchester United player. Simple here, Connor. Big club, big goal scoring potential, big money spent. That means they're going to parade this man. He has 5 Champions League appearances this year and 5 goals in those Champions League. And we know those are the games that matter. Those are the most watched games in soccer around the world is the Champions League. And he's got 5 goals in 5 games. Will he stay in favor is the question for this Manchester United team. When we look forward, we don't know whether his market is going to go up or down, whether he stays in form or out of form. We have seen players come in young into the Premier League and exit early. But will he be a guy that stays long term? Will he make a name for himself? His cards are tough to find because there's not any Manchester United cards. So you've got to go out and find his Serie A cards, which are rookie tickets right now. So this Chrome contender rookie ticket is what I've gotten into. I've gotten into a PSA 10 of that for $40, Connor. $40. I think there's so much upside on this player. When you look at Transfer Market, which is one of the biggest sites in the World Wide Web around the world for soccer news, this guy is number 5 on Transfer Market's most increased value since January. Number 5 in all of soccer in terms of where his evaluation started in January and where it is currently. And when we look at just forwards, just guys scoring goals, he's number 3. And the other 2 guys are the only 2 guys ahead of him in this category. So I think he is a great buy. Rasmus Højlund is how you pronounce it. Plus, this is another factor that I have not talked about yet. Rasmus Højlund he has started 8 games for Denmark. He has scored 6 goals at the senior national team level for Denmark. Scandinavian soccer has taken a moonshot of a rise since Erling Haaland has started in Norway. So Norway, Denmark, Sweden, all those, Finland, Netherlands, all those Scandinavian teams are taking a big, big rise over the past a year to 2 years because of the attention that Haaland has brought to all those soccer players. Denmark is taking a massive rise, and I would say Rasmus and his brothers, mind you, will all be cards that you will know about in the future. So get into Rasmus while you can. I think he will also have some really investable Manchester United cards that will not necessarily be his rookie cards, but will be Manchester United autos, but they are not out yet. So Rasmus Højlund is my first low end. So I'm taking 2 of those, $50 a piece. Even though I know I can get them for $40, I'm going to say 2 of those for $100.
Before you continue, Lefty, I just want to make a point that I love when you talk soccer. For those of you listening, if you guys hear Lefty start bringing up soccer, you better understand that the man's prepared and is going to have some good information. So lock in for these next 2 picks. Lefty, go ahead and keep it rolling, my friend.
I'm actually going to go to my high-end card, Connor.
Okay.
Because my mid-tier card is the one I'm most excited about. So I'm going to go for my high-end card. I'm going to take 2 PSA 10 Panini Chronicles Victor Sorry. I focused so hard on getting these right that now I'm getting them wrong. Victor Osimhen, PSA 10 Panini Chronicles rated rookie blue out of 49. This card is going for $312, and I'm getting 2 of these. This guy is one of the Napoli strikers that made Napoli rise in this Italian Cup last year. He is number 4 on the list of highest risers in the sport. The other list I just talked about, Højlund being number 5 on, he's number 4 in transfer market spikes since January. He is one of the faces of that Napoli team that destroyed all odds last season and has 6 goals in 10 appearances this year. He is one of the stars of the AFCON tournament and plays for a Nigerian national team, and he's destroying expectations there. He is putting the Nigerian national team on the map. Similar to how Højlund is putting Denmark on the map, Victor is destroying people in the AFCON tournament. He is due for a huge transfer soon. He has asked for a transfer away from Napoli because of coaching disagreements. And he is potentially going to Mauricio Pochettino's Chelsea team. Chelsea in England are about to have Victor Osimhen on their team, and he is going to score heck of bags for this Chelsea team that needs a striker. They need a striker, and Pochettino needs a big transfer. He could potentially break if he signs for what they think he does in January or in the summer. He is going to break the transfer record for the English Premier League. All of the English Premier League over time past one of the most famous places ever. He's going to break the transfer record, Connor, for the most expensive player to ever be bought by an English club. That's insane.
It's a big marker, right?
Yeah, that's insane. That is a huge marker, which is why I think this guy no one knows about. He's playing at a Napoli team that is incredible, by the way, and he's a Nigerian footballer, which he's incredible at, by the way. But no one, I would say you ask 10 soccer fans on the street, especially in America, if you're like, if you find actual people that say, I'm a soccer fan, and they know anything about world soccer, I say the odds of those people knowing who Victor is are 2 out of 10. And so I think this is a great investment. If you're getting an out of 50 PSA 10 of a guy who's about to do a transfer record transfer into English Premier League soccer, and you're getting that at $312, give me 2 of those. Give me 2 of those, Connor. I'm coming in at $600 of my 1,000 into Victor Osimhen. Pochettino is going to bring him into Chelsea, and I think it's going to change the way that we see African soccer players. That is my high-end. Mid-tier. This is the guy that I'm most excited about. I know you're saying, as a listener, you're like, Rasmus Højlund and Victor Osimhen. How can you get more excited after you've just been this excited? I am over the moon over watching this player. This player that I'm about to talk about is a PSG player that could potentially come back to PSG. Mbappe is about to leave PSG, and PSG is going to be wondering who is their next wonder kid that they're going to bring in. I have the answer for you, and he's already in the team. He is currently on loan at Red Bull Leipzig, and he's playing in Champions League or in European football with Leipzig. And I tune into every Leipzig game just to watch this player, Connor. Have you ever even heard of Red Bull Leipzig?
No.
Well, let me tell you, they have some of the best kids. Like they are known for being a club that brings in huge talent and develops them and sells them on to the next player. Let me just name some players for you. Do you know who Brendan Aronson is?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I am not close to as
well
he's
in
the soccer realm as you.
He's a starter on the U.S. men's national team. He started he played for Leipzig. Do you know who Erling Haaland is?
I do.
That's right, you do. Leipzig player. Do you know who Xavi Simons is? Or Siemens. Do you know who Xavi Siemens is?
We'll say yes for argument purposes.
You're going to know now because that is who this mid-tier talent is that I'm bringing in. He is a mid-tier guy that I'm going to take 2 Topps 2021, 2022 Topps Chrome PSG team set autographs because he's already in his PSG kit, Connor. These autographs are in a PSG kit. And I think that Xavi comes back. Xavi Siemens is going to come back. This 20-year-old Netherlands starter is doing things on the soccer field that when you look, you're like, holy crap, dude. This dude is playing some soccer. I literally watch Leipzig just to watch this guy play. He is my favorite investment in all of soccer right now. And he's the guy, like, even when I play FIFA, Connor, I'm like, okay, I know I'm gonna first season in my career mode, I'm going to get Xavi on my team because he's just that good. When I look at him, I'm like, this is a player that is going to be wildly famous over the next 10 years, in my estimation. His transfer evaluation went from $18 million in January to $70 million this year. This is a over plus $100 million player transfer if he does transfer away from PSG. You know, we just Southern Soccer Idiot. He's here. I'm going to get to Southern Soccer Idiot in a second, but he says that he's not going to play for PSG. That's fine. If he doesn't play for PSG, this guy's going to break transfer records probably as well. Xavi is incredible. The way he plays on the ball it's just breathtaking to watch. He scored some of screamers in top competition in European football, and he has 4 goals, 7 assists, and 13 matches for this Leipzig team. I'm looking at his value to rise exponentially over the next few years. Get in while nobody knows who he is. Currently, he is the third highest value riser in transfer market value since January 1st. You know who are fourth and fifth? Rasmus Højlund and Victor Osimhen. He is higher riser than them, Connor. Give me Xavi, son. Give me Xavi. Here's another interesting fact. We had one sports card strategy show earlier this year where I brought in my friend Trey, and we talked about soccer. We talked about soccer in a very early episode of the Sports Card Strategy Soccer Edition when we were doing stuff a different way at the Sports Card Strategy Show. We brought in my friend Trey, and I said, who are some wonder kids you're looking at over the next 5 years that people will know about? This man said Xavi Simons when we had that podcast. I don't know where he found that from, but he did. And I'm saying now, Xavi's one of my favorite players to watch. He's so fun. And I believe that he will be incredibly valuable over the next couple of years. So in the next 6 to 2, he's already been the third most rising player in terms of forwards, Connor. He's number one. He's number one on the list of highest valuation risers over the last 6 to 12 months. I look for that to even be exponential in his card values over the next 6 to 12 months. This guy has no cards currently available on auction. Otherwise, I would have bought them yesterday. I bought some Rasmus Højlund yesterday. I can't wait to buy into some more Xavi Simons. Give them to me, Connor. I'm taking 2 of all 3 of these cards, and I'm running to the bank, as this is my most favorite $1,000 that I have ever spent. And I believe that in real life, I would buy all 3 of these or all 6 of these cards today if you had them in front of me. I would take out a loan from somewhere to buy these cards.
I love it, Lefty. Soccer day from Lefty. One filled with passion. I've got it down in the books for him. We're going to keep track and see how this plays out for him. Hopefully very well. I love the passion from Lefty there and all the valuable information. Let's roll into my picks. Low end is a guy that we've talked about on the Overflow show a little bit. Basketball player, naturally. And I think that he's just super undervalued at the moment. And I think that he's one of the guys that's not getting the credit that he deserves, kind of like we talked about with Jalen Brunson. But I think that he's young enough and has enough upside that he can break that barrier of someone that earns the respect. Probably needs to go to a new franchise, but that's to be determined. Scotty Barnes, 2021 Prizm Base PSA 10. I know that we don't always recommend buying bases over silvers, but today, I think it makes sense. Down 61% the last 30 days. While the Raptors have been poor this year, they're 11th in the East. They're only 2 games back of a play-in spot. So that's doable. Barnes is averaging 20 points a game, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists on 47% from the field and 38% from 3. He's also averaging nearly 2 steals per game. So we're talking about someone that is extremely diverse. He can bring the ball up the floor. He can play the wing position. He can defend 1 through 4. He's shooting the ball well. He gets to the rack well. He's got great size. I believe in Scotty Barnes. This card sold for $16. I talked about how cheap that $11 Darius Garland was. You mentioned $11 compared to a Zion Prizm base that was $80. I think $16 for Scotty Barnes here is a steal. And I think within the next couple of years, like I said with Darius, he's someone that's going to be one of the faces in the league over the next few years. He's gonna elevate himself into like a top 20 guy, and I believe that. I'm buying 9 of these bases for $150, and this is going to be a bulk play for me. Mid-tier. Sticking with basketball, you better believe it. I don't know if I'm allowed to do what I'm doing here, but I'm as one of the hosts of this show, I'm granting myself an executive authority. I'm doing it. Jayson Tatum, 2017 Prizm Silver, but I'm buying it raw, Lefty. Why am I buying it raw? Because I'm not just buying it. I'm buying this with a play. This card's down 16% the last 365 days in raw. The last sale was $305. This card gems at a 58% clip, and 38% of the time gets a PSA 9. So that's combined 96% of the time. PSA 9s go for $372. Boom. $70 profit right off the rip just from getting it graded. Obviously, you got to take out grading fees. PSA 10 goes for almost $700. So I buy this card raw. I get it graded. Depending on the grade, I can wait for a Celtics playoff push to hopefully increase the value even more. I think this one's a no-brainer. I'm taking a buy raw in grade play. I don't know if I was allowed to do that, but sure. I've done it. Jayson Tatum, 2017 Prizm Silver, raw. I'm out of breath.
I like that play.
Thank you.
I'm like thinking do I have $300 to potentially put into a Jayson Tatum play right now.
96% either gyms
Yeah,
or gets a PSA 9 to make money.
That's such good data, Connor. That's such good data.
Thank you. And data. Let's keep rolling. High-end Joe Burrow 2020 Select Field Level Silver PSA 10. This is the time right now to buy this card. Right now. It's down 32% the last 30 days. Pop count 559, which is kind of in that sweet spot. Last sold for $549, which is an all-time low for this card. It's typically between $800 and $1,200. You don't have to do anything with this card, but wait for the hype cycle of the NFL hype cycle to return and Joe Burrow to be back ready to roll as a top quarterback in the league. To me, this one's an absolute no-brainer. $550 for a card that typically sits between $800 and $1,200, and you have to do. We're not waiting for any performance-based markers here. Just waiting for the Joe Burrow to get healthy and for the NFL offseason to bring some hype as the regular season next year draws closer. Those are my 3 picks for the week. I'm out of breath. Lefty, what are your thoughts?
I love it. I think Scotty Barnes is probably the weakest play in my opinion, and still
Agreed.
that card has good high-end value. I think
Definitely
the Jayson Tatum play, yeah, but I think it's fine. It's a low end, 150 for 9 cards. Give it to me, Connor. Come on. We've got Jayson Tatum raw play, such a good play right there. And Joe Burrow, we've almost exhausted talking about Joe Burrow on this show, and so
You have to right now.
yeah. The point is, it doesn't matter if you've exhausted Joe Burrow. Buy into Joe Burrow. What are you doing? That is I was trying to think of a cool saying to say, and I don't have one. So that's good
Criminally undervalued right now. I know he's hurt. I know he's not playing, but that price is just free money for that. I know you don't like the selects, Lefty. I know you don't like them, but it's free money. Sometimes we got to put the emotion aside.
I
We love
Joe
money.
Burrow.
That's right. All right, let's roll into winner of the week. We're 2 for 4 now. Last week.
Hold on. Hold on.
What's up,
Connor? You did not give yourself enough credit. So let me give me just a second. Hold on to your ears, podcasters. Ladies and gentlemen, Connor Barnett coming off a heater of a win, bringing himself back to 50%. We have the winner of the week coming forward. Connor,
thank you,
give
Lefty.
us your explanation.
It felt good to get a win last week, just because when I pick these, man, I'm getting in the trenches. We're not just deep diving sports cards. These are deep dive sports bets that I'm making. They're not investment advice.
When that bet hit last week, I was like, come on.
I needed it. I needed it. We got off
to
to a rough start.
Come to this podcast with a 1 for 4.
I would have been in shambles. But the good news is I'm not in shambles. We're 2 for 4, and we're going to be 3 for 5.
We're scrapping this. We're scrapping
Absolutely. But we're not. And we're going to keep trending in the right direction.
Come on,
this
Connor.
week.
Give it to me.
We got another basketball parlay. We're looking at the 76ers, Philadelphia 76ers, and Washington Wizards game. We're taking the Sixers money line at minus 480. I don't think that many people will be surprised for me to think that the Sixers are going to win this game. For those of you that don't know what the money line is, essentially that's just us saying the Sixers will win that game. Tobias Harris, this is a guy that I have been making solid money on throughout the season so far, because we talk about cards being undervalued. This dude is so undervalued in the sports betting world for some reason. It's hard to find these guys, but Tobias Harris is one of the guys for me this year. A couple years ago was Jeremy Grant. Guys like that are, it was when Jeremy Grant was on another team before the Portland Trailblazers. But there are guys that are just second and third options that are just, for some reason, their lines are set way too low, and Tobias Harris is one of them. Now, alternative lines do not come out until a couple hours before the game. So this singular leg is a projection, and I've made it enough time to think that I'm pretty accurate on my odds predictions here. So Tobias Harris, alt points. His straight line is set at 15.5 points. I don't want to take 15.5, but what I will do is take over 13.5. So you can take an alternative line. I think that will be roughly minus 300. Based on what his straight line is set at. So minus 480 and minus 300, very conservative legs. He scored over 13 points in 7 out of his last 10 games, and he has double-digit shot attempts in each game, the last 10 games. And he's shooting over 50% for the season. So not only is he getting shots up, he's scoring efficiently. very frequently scoring over 13.5 points. Harden's departure has really brought him back in the mix for the Philadelphia 76ers. And the Wizards, who they are playing against, are 29th out of 30 in defensive rating. So a lot of signs there that the Sixers were going to have a strong game offensively tonight, which is why the last leg will be Tyrese Maxey. We talk about Maxey a ton because we like investing in him in the sports card world right now. We're taking him 20-plus points, which is minus 450. So we've got 3 legs, all extremely conservative because I do not have a high risk tolerance. Maxey has scored less than 20 points in only 3 games all year. He's averaging 27 points per game. Like I mentioned, the Wizards near the absolute bottom in defensive rating in the entire NBA. All 3 of these legs give you roughly even odds, slightly in the positive. Again, that projection for minus 300 was an estimate for Tobias Harris alt lines. Very safe legs. That's my bet of the week. We're going to go to 3 for 5, which will be a 60% clip. Lefty, what's your correlating sports card play / advice with explanation?
So when I was looking at this play, I was thinking, okay, we've talked about the Wizards, we've talked about the Sixers, so I can't make a definition card bet based on those 2 cards. Tobias Harris, I would never recommend you buying a Tobias Harris card. And Maxey, I wouldn't necessarily buy a Maxey card right now because of his market being so high.
Sure.
So what am I doing? My lefties correlation play advice is none other than the next Tyrese Maxey. Immanuel Quickley.
I love it.
Is who I'm bringing up again. This is not necessarily tied into your play, but it's tied into your play because I think he's going to be the next Maxey. It is Immanuel Quickley's 4th year in the NBA. And what we've seen him do in his short, limited experience is score the basketball. If we know anything about sports cards, they follow the scorers. People that score the basketball get money when it comes to evaluations. And this card, I think, I'm going to walk into a little bit of an explanation of why I am buying into this card specifically. Immanuel Quickley, Prizm Silver base cards, raw. Sorry, not base cards. Immanuel Quickley, Prizm Silver cards, raw. Looking at the dots on the centering. Now, let me pull up, for those of you that are watching online, let me do something for you. I'm going to go to eBay right now. I'm going to look at my Immanuel Quickleys. Oh, it looks like I just won a Shohei Ohtani card. That's great. Immanuel,
Bang.
That is awesome. Thank you, Lord. Immanuel Quickley, Prizm Silver raw is what I'm typing in here. If you look at a Prizm Silver card, let's find one that's on auction. We're scrolling. Here we go, right here. Here's what I want to look at for this card specifically. Connor, a lot of times centering is a bad problem with these Prizm cards. Before you buy any of these on eBay, you can already tell what the centering is on this card because it gives you, like, the Prizm Silver cards, especially this year, 2020, 2021, gives you an automatic measurement tool on the card. See these little bubbles, Connor, on the side?
Got to share the screen still, Lefty, if you're anticipating.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. If you're listening, Lefty will, and
I
not
will
viewing, Lefty is going to continue to accurately explain it for you. So hang tight with us.
Okay, so let's look at this card here. Okay, see this card? See how it has these little chrome bubbles on the side?
Yes.
There are, on this card specifically, this is the one I'm bidding on. There's 4 on this side with a little bit shaved off of the 4th one. There's 4 on this side, a little bit shaved off on this side. When you come to the top and the bottom, there's 7 here, and there's 7 here, 7 here, and 7 here. If it was off center, those are not all going to be the same numbers. When you are buying, it is an automatic centering tool when you are looking at Panini Prizm Silver cards, especially the 2020, 2021s, because you can see these little dots in the corners and on the sides are exactly replicable on the other side. You know this is a well-centered card, which is one of the massive problems for Prizm cards. One of the massive problems is they don't center well. And so if you can buy into a card you already know is centered, that is a heck of a good play. So what I'm saying is buy these in bulk from eBay, but make sure you are looking at the dots. Zoom in and look at the dots before you buy the card. Of course, I would recommend while you're here looking at the corners, try to see if you can see any surface damage. This one is in a top loader and in a penny sleeve, so you can't tell. It looks like maybe there's some pock marks, but that also could be dust. But I'm saying mitigate some of your risk here. Buy into a card that you know is already well-centered. What you can do here is buy these for $5. These are going for around $5. I'll go ahead and place a bid on this. $3. Booyah. You're watching it live. And I'm going to come back. This card is going to come to me within $3 to $5. I'm going to put a $15 grading fee on top of that. It's a $20 card. This card is selling, and what I think it will be when he gets his moment in the sun will be at least a Jalen Brunson card of $150, at least. But I think it could go all the way up to where Tyrese Maxey's at, $400 and $500 card. If you're getting into this card for $20 after grading, either way, you can sell that. You can sell it for profit right now, Connor, because this card is around $50 to $60. If you can sell this card for $50 to $60 right now, and you already are mitigating so much risk by having a grading tool simply on the card, give it to me. This is how we make money in a sports card strategy show deep dive.
I love this, Lefty. I love this play. I love the Quickley play. We've talked about how there's a bunch of different Tyrese Maxeys in the league. Immanuel Quickley, Bones Highland, Terrence Mann. All of them have very similar play styles, but Quickley is the closest one right now. So if you're interested in making the play with high ceiling, low floor, Quickley is the way to go. I love this here. I love the quick tip for everyone on the free centering tool that they've offered us here. So love the correlation there. I'm a big Quickley guy. With that being said, let's roll into our audience Q&A. We've got some good questions coming your way, Lefty. Let's hop right into it.
While we're here, dude, you might as well see what I bought. We might as well see that I won this auction of a 2000 son of a gun. What's going on here? Okay. A 2018 Topps Chrome Update HMT 32, the exact card I talked about on the show on Monday. I got for $121 on auction. PSA 10. Give it to me,
W.
That is a dub. That's a
Big
dub.
time W. Love it. Love it. Let's roll into this audience Q&A, kicking things off, keeping it with baseball. Justin Stewart, question. Bowman draft coming out next week. I have several PSA 9 slabs that I'm not too interested in holding. Would you recommend I trade them in for a hobby box of draft or just not worth the gamble?
I have several PSA 9 slabs. Oh, man, if you're not interested in holding, I'm not interested in holding any PSA 9 slabs in general. Yeah, go ahead and get you a hobby box, man. I think you have to know that you might not get that evaluation back. But at the same time, it is a gamble. We're not saying in terms of sports card strategy recommend opening wax. But if you're going to open wax, a hobby box of draft is the best option you can do. There are so many high worth cards in that set. I think you can. Just know that you would probably need to sell almost anything you pull from that immediately.
Boom. Good stuff, Lefty. Justin, we hope that helps answer your question there. Up next, we got Shane Graham. Shane says, I sold a large Jalen Green lot for $600 to put into other cards that could see that rise, but is questioning which cards to target with that money. Lefty, you got $600 right now. I know we just did our 1K budget builder. Who are you investing in right now with the proceeds that Shane Graham got from selling this Jalen Green lot?
If I'm leaving it in basketball, I'm saying Immanuel Quickley definitely is one of my top investments, but his cards are hard to find right now. I would also say Tyrese Halliburton. I know people say that we're late on him. We are not, and we have not seen his ceiling, nor have he even had primetime games, really. We have not seen the best of Tyrese Halliburton yet. Plus, if those two guys are not tickling your fancy, then I would say put it into LeBron James, because LeBron James is going to have a lot of markers over the next couple of years. Plus, Bronny James is going to give LeBron James a rise. And with a win like last night when LeBron James leads this team back to the playoffs, he is putting more usage rate than he's ever had in the past 5 seasons. We've seen him like sit back and relax during the year. We're not seeing that this year. His usage rate is higher than it's been over the last 5 years. I think he knows he's got to be LeBron James for him to win another championship, and he's going to say, I'm putting this team on my back, LeBron James. So 2003 rookie card of his is what I would go into.
Good stuff. Up next, Card Banker 20. If I wanted to invest in Bobby Witt Jr., what would be better, Topps Chrome Sapphire rookie card or Bowman First Sapphire? How do Bowman First perform once a player is in the major leagues for a full season?
I am wildly confused at why this guy brought this up, because I feel like he's reading my mind. Connor, I was literally watching baseball reruns last night. I know, I'm an animal. I was watching baseball reruns last night on YouTube, and I was watching Bobby Witt Jr., and I'm sitting here thinking this is one of the most undervalued players in the MLB. He is incredible. He was 1 steal off from having 40 stolen bases or 50 stolen bases. He wanted to have a 30-50 season, I think. He was overshadowed because Ronald Acuna went and did 70 steals. If Ronald Acuna wasn't in the game, Bobby Witt Jr. would have been such a good player this year. He is on a franchise that is not televised at all, and he is the moniker of defense. He took a 1.5% WAR and created a 5 WAR in the span of a year. This is an MVP caliber player, and if he does keep improving, he will get MVP votes next year on a team that might not make the playoffs. The AL Central is in shambles right now. There's not one team that is good in that division. Don't let the Twins fool you. There is not a good team in that division. The Royals could rise up from the ashes here and take this division in a couple of years. Bobby Witt Jr. will be the guy to have in a couple of years. So I think this is a great investment. I've talked about how Bobby Witt Jr. is one of my favorite baseball investments of players that are already in the major leagues. Shohei and Bobby Witt Jr. are probably one of the only 2 players that I would invest in of active baseball players. So great job, Banker, looking at a guy that has incredible upside. I would say go for a Bowman First Sapphire, or if you can pull off a Bowman Chrome Auto, I know that's in the $1,000 range. I think that this card is going to grow massively over the next 12 months. Bobby Witt Jr. is starting to get some incredible buzz, and as the Royals begin to put the pieces together to make this competitive franchise again, he will grow massively.
Good breakdown, Lefty. Card Banker 20, reading Lefty's mind. Up next, we've got Chad Gill. I'm sorry I missed this earlier in the show, Chad. He said, Shaden Sharp, Silver Prizm PSA 10, which is $140. Josh Giddey, Prizm Silver PSA 10, $136. Or Jalen Brunson, Prizm Silver PSA 10, $110. Who would you rather have? Lefty, this is a no-brainer for me. I'm taking Jalen Brunson. We're talking about the first scoring option, maybe second, if you consider Julius Randle, on a team that I think will make the playoffs this year, versus Shaden Sharp, who is in a flurry of different guards over there that he's competing for time with. Not a playoff team. And then we have Josh Giddey with all the mayhem that he's going through now, even though it looks like he might be in the clear. He's like their 4th scoring option. As much as I like his game and what he brings to helping teams win, I don't think he's going to do anything that's going to make him a super popular player in the sports card world. I'm taking Jaylen Brunson all day long here.
Amen. All that. Amen.
Boom. All right, let's round off the show with Mark D. Got some Bowman Chrome questions for you, Lefty. He said, I'm sitting on 20 each. Bowman Chrome first, Gabriel Gonzalez, Jose De Paul, as well as Justin Crawford that are gradable. Is it worth sending them in, or should he just hold for now?
Yeah, send all of those in. Another thing that you can do that I think would be an interesting play right now is we've talked about SGC not being the card gradings that we want to be in. We want to send our stuff to PSA. SGC is doing a $9 promotion for all Bowman cards right now. So that's $6 better of a buy-in market that you could make on a PSA 10. I think you are going to have to make that decision whether that is a good enough evaluation for you or if you'd rather have a PSA 10. Personally, I'd rather have a PSA 10, but at the same time, I feel like a $6 difference on a card that's maybe $6 to $12. I can't imagine Gabriel Gonzalez or Jose De La Paula or Justin Crawford are going for anywhere close to $20. I would imagine, without looking at it, their Chrome first 10s are going between $6 and $12 for the three of those. So then you add $6 to $12, $6 on that. You're $12 invested rather than almost $25 invested. So that's just an option. Just know that's an option for Bowman. I'm thinking about making a bulk play to SGC now as well. So it's an option I'm considering as well. I'm not willing to say that I've pulled the trigger yet on it, but know that it's out there. Either way, I'm saying yes, you still have time to send these in. These guys will not be called up on day one. So we will have a call up for these three guys later in the year. And so, yes. And Connor has exited the show. I'm sure there's a technical difficulty. He might have pressed X on StreamYard when he was trying to refresh his tabs or something like that. He maybe have pressed X and exit out of it. There he is. He's back.
I just got booted straight out of this thing. Apologies. I think it was good timing though. I think that's going to wrap up the show. Lefty, do you have any closing thoughts for us today?
I just want to say that Southern Soccer Idiot agreed with the guys that I put forward, with Javi and with Osimhen. And so that makes me feel good because he definitely knows what he's doing. So the 1K budget builder with Javi and Osimhen and also with Hoyland is definitely some good soccer cards you want to get into.
Love it. Great work today, Lefty. Thank you all for tuning in and keeping up with our sports card strategy deep dive. We will be back next Wednesday. Please continue to drop questions in the comments. And with that, we will let Paul take things away, sir.
Great job on today's show, Lefty and Connor. Everybody, thanks so much for watching and listening. I'm Paul Hickey with NoOffSeason.com. Don't forget to get your free 30-day trial today at NoOffSeason.com to help you build your sports card investment portfolio and take lessons at Sports Card School. Go to SportsCardSchool.com. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727 to get your buy alerts and your sell alerts. Text sports cards to 1-833-992-5727. That's 1-833-992-5727. Text sports cards there to get your buy alerts and sell alerts to crystallize your profits. We would love it if you give us a positive review on Apple or Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Paul Hickey and connect with us on Instagram at Sports Card Strategy. Thanks for being part of the NoOffSeason.com family. Have a great day.